First of all, let me say that we don't use the term illegal immigrants. I actually issued a policy in the Department of Homeland Security. We use the term non-citizen to respect the dignity of every individual.
What's good? Welcome in. News from the Interzones, Sunday evening edition. We got a couple points we're going to touch on here, right? So as the crime videos and the sprees, the deaths start to pile up, even the left at this point is starting to realize that unchecked immigration, sanctuary cities and states are not that good of an idea, right? You're seeing uproar across the political spectrum. And, you have one governor in particular that's doing everything in his power to secure his portion of the border, which is Greg Abbott down in Texas. Everything from barbed wire, buoys, shipping containers, busing illegals to sanctuary states and cities, to now even commencing construction on the border wall through state funding, right? The guy absolutely setting the precedent. That's how one leads and, takes care of the constituents that you're, elected to represent, right? But of course, the ever slimy Biden administration, they definitely can't let that ride because that's good optics. So they have to send out their most slimy of representatives, the old reptile Alejandro Mayorkas, on an interview, of course, on CNN, to come out and say that Greg Abbott's actions and examples amount to bad governance. Right? Absolutely hilarious, as if that's not the kettle. This guy is totally culpable, probably more so than anyone else, as, again, he is the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security. He's letting this happen. He himself, being an immigrant, is going to look at the mass unchecked immigration much differently than you and I, or even those immigrants that paid the money, jumped through the hoops, and went through a years-long process to get here the legal way. You know what I'm saying? Real shit. And, but of course, there's method to the madness. There's a goal in mind. There always is. The left is doing nothing but trying to increase their power and usurp yours. All right. That's their modus operandi. Right. And, this, regardless of the leftist, platitudes and talking points of, immigrants don't affect elections. They're not voting. Right. We know these sanctuary cities and states are giving them driver's license and some of them are already letting them vote in local elections. But that's not even, the bad part of it, right? It's, again, the padding of the numbers, the representation as far as the federal government goes, and the allotment of electoral college votes. You know what I'm saying? Which, Biden, one of his first acts upon coming into office was to undo one of Trump's executive orders that was making the Census Bureau discern between naturals and immigration status, basically, right? So completely on purpose. And, if you didn't think that, if that's not enough for you to say it's on purpose, you heard in the beginning there, Alejandro Mayorkas say that, through his memo through the Department of Homeland Security, they don't use the terminology illegal immigrant. And the Biden administration, not to be outdone by his own slimy representatives, it took it even further with them now referring to those illegals as newcomers, right? And one of the many reasons that the GOP refused to take up the left's so-called border bill, not only because, 80% of it went to foreign countries, but there's a $1.5 billion allotment to those sanctuary cities and states to house, feed, and educate newcomers. You know what I mean? So that's suggestive programming there. They're getting that naturalization kick out there ahead of time, right? And if that's not enough, of course, you have the ex-head of the Border Patrol, the chief there, Raul Ortiz, come out and say during his entire tenure, which was served completely under Biden, not only did he not meet with Biden or his reps, but he didn't even meet with Biden's so-called border czar, camel toes fucking Harris, right? And, just the appointment of her as climate czar was one big ass troll. You know what I'm saying? They trolled you. That chick's never even been down there. When asked about it, she cackles. You know what I mean? Just like Biden, his recent photo op, he went to an area in Texas that doesn't have an issue with mass crossings, of course, right? And then went on to say it's because MAGAs and you guys are lunatics because the environment or whatever. Right? And all this on top of the Biden administration taking it all the way to the Supreme Court to sue the state of Texas to prevent them from securing their portion of the border after ripping it down and, their barbed wire and whatnot, tearing it apart, and it being stayed by, a local judge. They took it to the Supreme Court, but that was such bad optics that not only, did Biden not do anything, but again, Greg Abbott is continuing the building of Trump's border wall, again, with state funds. So, absolute, superstar, except for the one thing that I can agree with Alejandro Mayorkas on is Greg Abbott's scheme of busing illegals to sanctuary cities and states. And while they're just getting what they ask for, obviously it's going to cause problems as far as the country's concerned. And again, padding those numbers for them, basically trying to give his power away. Real shit, right? And, so with all this, piling up, what's the best the GOP, the spineless jellyfish that you call senators, what's the best they can muster? GOP senators warming on a Mayorkas impeachment hearing. Fucking warming. You know what I'm saying? And, that's why the loss in confidence across the board. And, with a new poll coming out, right, stating that 85 to 90% of respondents now back the building of a border wall. That's up massively from 2015, when the question first became hot topic and was asked. And it's about a 20% increase from 2017. So, I mean, you're seeing the mass awakening as far as, the realization that this will destroy your country, culturally, economically, so on and so forth, right? But of course, the lizard overlords won't listen. You know what I mean? It's the ones scream democracy the loudest that do the most to silence, disparage, and disregard the voice and the will of the people that they're supposed to be representing, right? And that's why for the first time, we've seen a drop in support of democracy across the West, right? A new a Pew Research poll that just came out was taking over 24 democratic Western nations. 59% expressed dissatisfaction with the functioning and outcomes of democracy. And the number one reason why? Because your so-called elected officials don't listen. They only look out for their better interests, their donors, and what the true lizard class, the WEF and so forth, the edicts that they put forward, right? We've covered this again a million times. Every time you see one of these Davos gangs, everything that they talk about is already in the process of or will shortly be rolled out on you, man. You've seen, the last time at the Davos, you had this little Austrian chick stand up and telling you will have hate speech in America, right? And lo and behold, they've been cracking down ever since. Even now, Elon Musk, the richest man in the world can't weather the storm with new laws set down, of course, first spoken about again at the WEF, handed down to the EU, and now implemented. They just went into effect days ago, and that's why you've seen now the re-rollout of the misgendering rules on X, because basically it amounts to, any tech company that has a 6% reach of the EU is subject to these laws. Well, they will flag what they consider to be hate speech, and then if it's not removed, we'll start to implement fines in the amount of $54 million per post per day that it's left up. Okay, so not even old Elon can weather the storm of, again, the true lizard overlords that are, in charge. And you know, but to go back to that Pew poll, 59% of those same respondents went on to say that we need a strong leader that is willing to disregard or bend laws to bring the West back in order. Right? So it's at that point in the scheme of things where people are begging for a dictator. It's basically Cloward Piven on steroids, but it's not going the way the left assumed it would. They're begging for a right-wing dictator to come in and crack some fucking skulls. All right? You guys tell me what you think. Truly appreciate the stop. Please like and share if you would. Smell you later.
I was going to put him...
Idiots.